Right, welcome to Saturnview. There's a little bit more going on in this level than previous levels, so I thought I'll do a little bit of commentary while doing the walkthrough for this one. Alright, so before we get started, disclaimer, I am not a level designer. I'm a environment artist, level artist hybrid. What is an environment artist? It's the person that makes the 3D art that goes into a level. What is a level artist? It's the person that takes all of that art and puts it all together in a level, usually building the final stuff that you would see when a game releases. So why level design? Well, I personally see level design similar to how before you paint a painting, you will first make a sketch to plan out the painting. So this is basically a lot more art heavy than design heavy. There's not a lot about enemy spawns and pickup locations and quests and things like that. This is primarily me figuring out the space of a level that I would like to build. Right, so I thought I'll just put that out there before we're going. But yeah, let's run around here and see what we've got. Alright, so right off the bat, I always try to have a nice starting position for my player. In this case, they start over here. The environment is kind of blown out here, which I think is quite nice because it kind of obscures the exterior and you're just stuck over here for now. Here is a door just hinting that you came from some interior place to outside now. Now, the beauty of the overblown lighting at the moment is it kind of adjusts itself when you want to go and have a look at what's actually going on here, but it's sort of like a gradual reveal, which I always think is quite nice, especially at the start of a level, to get a gradual reveal of the level as you progress. Right, so now we're making some progress towards this blue character standing over here, and he presents us with a little bit of exposition. Right, so that sudden sandstorm really hit us hard, but we're nearly 60% operational again. Be careful on your way down. Right, so this is just kind of telling you a little bit about the world, what's going on here. Some bad collision over there. And yeah, another thing I would like to mention while I'm up here, a good thing is when you start the player off up here, it gives them a vantage point, and then they can kind of get a bit of a preview of the level before they go into it. I always think it's nice. And another thing at this particular point, it's something that From Software does frequently in their games. I'm particularly thinking of, I really liked how they did it in Sekiro, where oftentimes when you enter a new area, your goal is right in front of you, even though you don't really know what the goal is. It is visible. So in this case, even though you will not go there, the comms tower is one of your main objectives in this level. As well, there in the distance you can see, it's not very clear now, but there's actually a burning facility over there. So both your, well, not both, two of your primary objectives are visible at the start. Right, now let's make our way down. Originally, this level was supposed to be, let me give a little bit of exposition real quick. So this facility got hit by a rogue sandstorm that pretty much completely covered the whole place in sand. Now, my initial iteration had this completely covered in sand, which didn't work too well. I'll put a little bit over here about the to show the first iteration. You need stuff for your player to interact with in the level. If you just cover everything in sand, even though it might fit the idea better, it doesn't necessarily make it a fun space to run around through. Right, so here we can see one of the earlier iterations of this level, and yes, it's a lot more buried in sand, but that means there is an awful lot of nothing in this level. You're just running. And while maybe the idea that there was a storm is conveyed better, ultimately as a level this is incredibly bland to go through. Right, so back to this particular level, we have a lot more to guide the player as the player goes through the level. Like this over here, it doesn't serve much purpose, but it's a little thing for the player to walk towards. It keeps them busy while they're going through the level. Here's another blue guy with some exposition. This here, it's a repurposed crawler. Yeah, we realized they're actually pretty good at clearing the sand. Right, so just a little bit more telling you what's going on here. So, what were these machines used for originally? I don't really know, but what are they using them for now? They're using them to clear the sand, because the place is still pretty much covered in sand. So let's continue over here. You can technically go around and explore over here, but for the sake of time I'm not going to do that. This would probably be a good spot to put some hidden pickups, some additional bits of exposition maybe. But for now we're just going to keep following the path down to here, where we will be reaching our first T-junction. Let's quickly talk about the T-junction. So one thing I realized while doing these levels, when you're building more open spaces, it's kind of hard to give the player a very predictable way of progressing. Because in this case, even though you design with that in mind, the experience will be slightly different if the player takes a right here versus if the player takes a left here. I personally would prefer for the player to go left, hence why I put this guy on the left. So hopefully what that would do is it will pull the player to the left, and the guy just says something random. It's nothing really important. Ah, that's where I parked my rover. Right, now you're facing this direction, so hopefully your average player will just keep going forward. Your more curious player will probably turn around at this point and go the other way. Right, so now we go up here, and here we're presented with another T-junction. And since the garage is over here and it looks a bit more interesting, we'll go down there. Now, this was built a bit further down, just to have a little bit more elevation going on, because if you build everything on the same level, it tends to be a very boring space to go through. Right, so let's see what's going on here. Another blue guy. So all the blue guys, basically, they're marked blue because they are giving exposition. They're just giving exposition, intel, maybe, or maybe just like the guy with his rover, just something. Not necessarily anything useful. Right, so it's a good thing we had the doors closed when the storm hit, otherwise we'd be royally screwed. Okay. Right. So yeah, as we can see, there's not a lot of sand in here. So yeah, they had the doors closed while when the storm hit. Let's proceed up here. Now here is a green guy. The guys marked in green, they are NPCs that give you some form of objective in this area. Right, so the system's offline again? Dude, what the hell are they doing up there in orbit? Hey, can you find out if the comms tower is also having issues? Right, so this guy's giving you a little something to do now. You need to go see what's up. Why is everything offline again? So again, so this is clearly something that's been happening recently, a lot recently. Now over here, the guy wants you to know about the comms tower. So as the player proceeds back out, the comms tower is actually right in front of them over here. So it's just a little way to help kind of create a cognitive map where the player just got asked about the comms tower, and then they see the comms tower on their way up. Just helps you to make sense of the space a little bit more. Right, so I'm going to run through here so we don't, because I think this might go on for too long if I keep walking. Let's see, there's a blue guy over here. Let's just quickly go talk to him since he's right here. Hey, look at that. Those red ships belong to the executives. Wonder if something happened at the comms tower. Right, so here we've got two, you can't really see with the aerial perspective at this point, but they're red ships over there at the comms tower. Right, so just another little bit pointing you towards it. This will help maybe if a player didn't realize for some reason coming up there from the garage that it is the comms tower. Now they should know. Let's see what's going on here to the right. Here is hydroponics. So hydroponics, like a, I don't know, greenhouse, you know, where they make greeneries and stuff. So this guy, do you want to hear good news or a good news? The good news is the sand wrecked the rotary systems. Alright, I guess we can see that from the smoke. The good news is we'll be out of food in 4 days, right? So he's clearly not in a good mood. The best news, go down to supplies and find out for yourself. Okay, well I guess we'll be heading down to supplies then and see what the best news is. The good news is definitely not good news at this point. Right, so not much going on here. Could maybe put like a pickup or something there. Right, so let's proceed further. So here seems to be some sort of a parking space. Another blue guy over here. Feels like there's no end to all this sand. Yes. Okay, so here we've got the exit. Now, here's another T-junction. The player can either exit the facility or they can proceed. So, if you listen carefully, you'll know you'll pick up there's a sound coming from the left, and that is supposed to, if the player comes from this direction, to pull them to the left rather than immediately have them exit the facility. And they can exit and then they can come back. There's nothing wrong with that. Right, so here, this is something that I think is kind of important whenever you're dealing with long lengths of just running, is having little bits of pieces along the way for the player to sort of like bounce off of instead of just running straight. This, to be fair, is probably still a little bit too empty, but at least you've got this vehicle over here and then you've got some containers over here. So see, it kind of pulls the player around while they're proceeding through it. If those didn't exist, it would just be an empty straight run, and that's pretty boring. Right, so this particular place is a bit noisy, so hopefully my voice is still coming through. I'll try to speak a bit louder. Right, so we've got, this is a very busy area to kind of have it feel, to contrast it with the rest of the area. So we've got some vehicles over here, lots and lots of cargo containers being dropped from the launch pads. Let's see, there's another blue guy over here. Nice. 250 tons of toothpaste. This is probably the base news that the other guy was talking about. Okay, so what else is going on here? The whole crowd of people over here. And a blue guy. I don't care if it's your job or not, we won't be accepting any more of this crap being dropped at the outpost. Bit of friction over here between the pilots and, I don't know, I guess that's the guy that needs to accept all the stuff. And an objective guy. Rogue sandstorms, unstable comms, HQ dispatching nonsense supplies. Hey you, looks like you're not busy. Can you head out to the Firefields outpost and check whether they are having the same issues? Right, so there's a bit of an objective, and this will essentially become the primary objective for the player over here. But let's continue. So here's storage, and it seems like storage is just completely overflowing with stuff. And it seems like a lot of the stuff is not very useful. Something's wrong, man. Why would they drown us in gear for aquatic facilities? Yeah, that sounds pretty wrong. Let's continue over here. Again, this place is quite loud. This guy feels the same. Huh? What did you say? Sorry, I can't hear you with all this noise. I feel you, man. It's pretty loud. So let's just proceed. So here, there's technically not much going on. This is just kind of like going full circle back to where the initial T-junction was. So this is like a little back alley. Things are getting a bit more quiet again. Here's another green guy. Let's see. What's this? I requested rover parts, not speeder parts. Alright, and a container here marked in green. This is probably important. I guess we'll find out why it's important. And, oh, here's another green guy. Alright, so welcome to my little side hustle. Let me know if you need anything outside of the official allocations. Right, so, essentially, your merchant. Now, I'm just going to double back here real quick and look here. So here we're now kind of like moving a little bit underneath the original place where we started. And again, verticality like this, where you're going either over places where you've been or underneath places you've been, this really helps to make a place feel a lot more massive than it is. So I always think this is something that's really good to add to your environments. It just feels good. It really feels good going underneath huge structures. I really like it, at least. So let's continue through here. There's a bunch of people standing there. No, nothing really interesting. And now we are back at the T-junction. Alright, so there's the guy that found his rover. Let's head to the exit. I'm just going to take a shortcut over here so that we don't need to go through all of that stuff again. Alright, so through here. Now we're basically above that parking space, and there's the exit. Right, let's proceed through the exit. Now the exit, I would say at this point, is probably the weakest spot in this entire level, because it's kind of just an empty space, but I suppose you need a bit of breathing space as well. But at least it pulls you towards the other side with this green vehicle over here. So let's see, this guy... Dude, I just had the speeder fixed. Screw it, I'm over this. If you can fix this pile of scrap, it's yours. I'm leaving this colony. Right, so this guy is pretty fed up, and I'm not sure if you remember, but previously near the merchant there was the guy complaining that he got speeder parts instead of rover parts, and this is a speeder. So that's maybe just something to pay attention to. And now for another thing. At this point, the player should hear very faintly in the distance a siren. That's just another way to pull the player towards a very specific area. Right, so let's to the right. And to the right is, what I should say, are the silos. Right, and one of the silos is burning. Now let's see, there's some black stuff over here. Don't touch that stuff, you'll die. Okay, so we definitely do not want to touch the black stuff. Right, so let's see, what exactly is going on here? Let's see, maybe the blue guy knows. There was an explosion at Silo B, during an executive inspection. Oh, see, there's a red ship belonging to the executives. Right, so something funky is going on here. Things are definitely not right. There's a problem with HQ, the executives are being weird. Yeah, all of this is just sort of like foreshadowing that, yeah, things are just not right here at the moment. Green guy, objective guy, so let's see. Passage to the Dune Towers is blocked. The guys over at the Firefields outpost might be able to help us salvage the situation. Okay, so there we've got the Dune Towers. And this is the first point of hinting that this is part of a larger world, because now you can see some stuff off in the distance, but the way towards that area is currently blocked. Because we're sitting in this sort of like, not really a valley, but we have clear in and out paths. Alright, well, since we cannot go through here, and that guy wants us to go to the Firefields, which way is the Firefields? Well, there's fire in the distance, that's probably the Firefields. Right, and yeah. Again, some pipes, just nice big structures that the player can run through just to make the place feel nice and big. Let's see what's going on over here. Okay, here's two blue people. Let's see, us slacking? No. Oh, we're just checking stock. Do you want some happy drops? Alright, so this was again just some nonsense exposition, bunch of, yeah, well, let's just leave them there with their happy drops. Everybody reacts to stressful situations differently, right? Let's see, so now we're going underneath the pipes, and over here is another depot, right? So that was, I think, depot 52. This is depot 53. There's another blue guy. Faster, you stupid machine. We're crazy behind schedule because of the sand. Alright. So I assume the machines have been going crazy at this point because they've cleared out most of the sand at least, but yeah, there's still a lot left. Right, and so the depots are just, they are distributing whatever that black fluid is that gets processed at the silos, and then over here it gets sent to different parts of these colonies on this planet. While I'm looking at this pipe over here, so but the pipes coming from the silos both go into the different directions, so it forms a sort of like a guiding line for the player to know in which direction they can proceed to neighboring areas within this world. And here is another green NPC. The fire fields are up ahead, but it's dangerous to go on foot with all these recent rogue storms. Right, so we can't just run there, we'll need something. Rovers won't help much with all the sand from the recent storm, but a speeder could make it easily. Alright, so basically at this point you have a few objectives that will send you either back to, well no, it'll send you back to the facility where you now need to go and collect certain things from the NPCs. So you need a speeder. There's the speeder in front of the exit. Then the speeder needs to get fixed, so there are the speeder parts that one guy received. And if you take those two, then you should be able to fix the speeder and then progress further towards the fire fields. Right, and that is pretty much the level. So yeah, thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoyed the tour of Saturnview.